Hello, I'm Voltaire Tupas. Welcome to Rappler Talk. It's week two of the clashes between the military forces and local terrorist groups in Marawi City. The Move PH, Rappler Civic Engagement Arm, is looking into the humanitarian situation on the ground. We are particularly talking about the effects of the clashes in Marawi City on the education sector. Joining us today is the Secretary of Education, Secretary Leonor Briones. Hello, ma'am.
Hello, good afternoon.
As we speak, the clashes are ongoing and many evacuees are already looking for areas where they can stay. In the meantime, mainly in Iligan City, in CDO, and other parts of Mindanao. You just came from CDO for an
Yes,
emergency response
yes.
meeting. Can you give us a sense of the situation on the ground as far as learners, teachers, education
Yes.
officials are concerned?
From day one, we immediately contacted our regional directors and all our undersecretaries and assistant secretaries. I ordered them to stay put and not to leave their stations. And I instructed our regional directors who are out in Mindanao to monitor events and what is happening and report to us immediately such developments so that we could augment the information that was passed on to us by media and also military security briefings. Now, during our meeting, first we had an overall picture of the situation nationally as a security challenge. And then we heard the report of our DRRMS, which is Disaster Risk and Mitigation Office, part of the Department of Education, because they immediately, on day one, they immediately went to Mindanao and reached as far as Iligan. And so, and they were reporting to us on a daily basis on what the situation is. And then we also heard the report of ARMM. Of course, as you know, ARMM is autonomous. They have their own Department of Education, but we coordinate very closely, and so they shared with us also their views and recommendations. We called the emergency meeting because on the 25th, this is immediately after the start of the hostilities, we had a briefing, four of us cabinet members who were left here in the country, and the decision at that time and the assessment at that time was that by June 5, it would be safe to open classes all over the country, and that is the reason for our earlier announcement. But as events unfolded, we could see that we had to reassess our decision. And the views of ARMM were taken very seriously, and also of the military advisor. We have a military consultant who briefed us also. So we came to a decision that while the entire country will open classes as usual, we will wait for Marawi. Marawi will open Marawi City and 8 districts in Lanao del Sur will wait for 2 more weeks. The assumption is that even if the military operations will already be successful, we have to check out all the facilities to make sure that these are safe, and so we would need time. However, there will be efforts to make sure that the school calendar will be followed and we will end up together as a country. I mean, close classes because you can always have make-up classes. We made certain adjustments. We agreed on certain adjustments, especially for the learners who are now in Iligan and in Cagayan de Oro. We will dispense or waive the requirements, the usual documentary requirements like birth certificates, class clearances, grades, etc., as long as they present themselves as refugees, children of refugees, we will accept them. The overall decision is that we should not disrupt whatever is happening, the process of educating our learners. We cannot postpone lengthily all our efforts and our commitments.
But obviously, well, clearly, mayroong degree of disruption, lalo na sa Marawi City. How many people have been affected as far as the opening of classes is concerned, students in particular?
Well, we have been told that 90% of the Marawi city population has already evacuated, and we can imagine that a good number of this group would be children, and they would not only be in Iligan and Cagayan de Oro, but we assume that they will also be in other places in Mindanao, because the impulse is always to go to your relatives or to churches or institutions who share and who sympathize with their one's situation. So in Iligan, for example, they have the biggest number, I believe, of evacuees, and 3 of our schools were used as centers. It's something that you cannot stop, because when people rush in, you don't drive them out. But we have been saying that as soon as possible, these schools, which are now used as evacuation centers, have to be emptied, and the occupants may need to be transferred elsewhere, so that the process of enrollment and classes will not be disrupted.
Yung mga paghahanda na ginawa nyo nung Brigada Eskwela, one of the reasons why you prepared was for people to be prepared during disasters. And
Yes.
this happened, which is man-made disaster. How prepared are the evacuation centers there, the schools in Mindanao, in Iligan, CDO, other areas, to accommodate
The
these
schools
evacuees?
were prepared for school. And that is precisely why we keep on repeating that they may not be as effective as evacuation centers. Think of the seats. The seats are for children. Think of the tables and so on. So we would prefer that the evacuees be housed and accommodated elsewhere. When we had the Brigada Eskwela, it was largely to prepare for the opening of school. And this is where the entire community came in. And we anticipate that the numbers of new additional learners would be significant. If you think 90% of Marawi, a good number of them would be in Iligan, because it's less than 30 minutes, 45 minutes away, and I have been to both places. And so we anticipate an increase enrollment in Cagayan de Oro and in Iligan. So this will require additional facilities and resources. One, temporary, they call it, we always invent new words. We don't say classrooms, we say temporary learning spaces. And so this have to be attended to, and we are seeking the help of international organizations. We ourselves are funding all these temporary learning spaces. I have difficulty with 3 words. And then school supplies, chairs, and so on. But the most important need is teachers, because children can sit on the floor, or you can sit under the mango tree, but if you have no teacher, then you have a problem. So ARMM committed to assist us in identifying Maranao-speaking teachers who will make the children more comfortable and at ease. There were questions as to whether they should have separate classes or not, and I am of the view that as much as possible we should integrate them. The reason why you have all these problems is because we keep on separating people on the basis of whatever faith, politics, or whatever we think about in terms of prejudices. So ayaw natin yan.
Pero dahil napaka-liit ng oras na
Yes.
nagugugol sa paghahanda at ito nga ay nangyari, first, ano ang mangyayari sa mga teachers galing Marawi City? Siyempre, hindi sila makapagturo na. That's one. Two, yung mga students na nasa evacuation centers na, exactly what are they going to do? Because the parents are worried. Some of them would like their students, their children to continue their studies even if they
Yes.
are in evacuation centers.
Oo. if they are grade 2, they go to the nearest elementary school. Kung high school sila, they go to the nearest high school. Pero every effort will be made to accommodate them. Kasi ang ginawa, day 1 pa lang, nagpunta ka agad yung mga district superintendents kasi I was so touched dahil we were sending them instructions. Yun pala, they were already doing what we wanted them to do, like inventory and so on, look at the situation. So, alam na nila kung ano ang kailangan. And they articulated all of these concerns. So, ang problem is financing and so on. And I assured them that we should have no trouble financing all these additional activities because what is the budget of the Department of Education for? It's not to be kept in the bank. It's to be spent for people, especially for children. So, medyo nag-act kaagad sila, but there's really a sense of urgency. We will know by Monday kung makayanan, no? Pero we're doing everything we can. Everybody has been mobilized. Kasi summer, some of our officials were on holiday. Pinauwi ko sila, pinabalik ko sila. And our teachers, they are off abroad, learning new things, etc. Siyempre, pinabalik din sila because they have to be in their posts and preparing for all these eventualities. And also in our capacity building for teachers, because this is why some groups are complaining why we are always capacitating the teachers continuously with or without martial law. This is because new things happen all the time. And in one of these capacity building sessions is really how to handle disaster, how to handle crisis situations, as exemplified by what happened during the flood in Cagayan de Oro when children were trapped and so on and so forth.
Another example would be the Zamboanga siege.
Yes.
I understand the department has learned many lessons
Yes,
in terms of intervention,
Yes,
in terms of
yes.
camp management, and so that this will not happen again
Yes.
in Iligan and other parts of Mindanao. What are the main lessons that you would like to bring into your intervention
Well,
there?
again, this is my view, which is shared by many of those who experience Zamboanga. We put families in temporary shelters. We should resolve crisis as quickly as possible because the longer families are cramped into very crowded temporary shelters, common toilets, and so on. This is where you have issues of harassment, issues of pregnancy, child abuse. We don't talk about it because we always talk about heroism and all the good things and loving our fellow men, helping them out. But these things also happen. So this is our plea to all the contending parties to shorten the period as fast as possible kasi nangyari sa Zamboanga, I understand, umabot ng months and months and people could not be relocated or brought back to their homes as fast as possible. And so they were exposed, and especially children are exposed to danger. Thievery, lahat na nangyayari. And we would not want this to happen. So ayon. Again, sa conditions din sa shelter, dahil sa Zamboanga incident, they were in the bleachers, di ba? Hindi pa nga gym. Open ang exposed to elements. All the risks are there when you put people in shelters. So, kailangan kaagad ma-decongest. At saka, we have to give the children a sense of normalcy. Yeah. That life goes on, that learning goes on.
It's good that you pointed that out because on social media, many parents are asking, maliban sa conflict, may added pa na complication ng martial law. Well, you've lived through martial law. What are your tips to children, to parents who are still confused as to the situation, the political situation on the ground,
Yes.
the military situation? In terms of security, in terms of human rights, how are they going to deal with this?
Well, under it's Mindanao, which is under martial law. I have been to Cagayan de Oro and other parts of Mindanao. It is really business as usual, except that the checkpoints are very long and very tedious when you enter Cagayan de Oro or you enter Iligan. But once you are inside, it's business as usual. People carry on with their lives. If one is not involved in the conflict, then one is not really, unless you are collateral damage, as in the case of Marawi. My tip is, since we are not covered by martial law, I mean we, for example, in Luzon, in the Visayas, we go on with our lives. We cannot spend our time getting nervous and scared and speculating what will happen to us and to our children, and guessing that martial law will soon be declared wherever we are. We go on with our lives. This is what we are doing in education. We are scheduled to start classes. We will start classes so that the sense of normalcy, the sense of a process of stabilization will be there. So I would like to urge parents to assure them that things will be as they are and are going on as they are, unless one is a combatant or involved in the debate right now. The ordinary people are going about their business peacefully, and this is something we would like to transmit also to the children, because it can be very traumatic. Children sense, even if parents do not talk about it, children can sense fear and insecurity.
And they
you
have
pass
access
this,
to
yes.
social media and information, TV and other information that they get from media, so they are susceptible to
Yes,
this
yes.
information.
But then when you go out into the streets, then you see that life goes on for most parts of the country. This is not to say that Marawi is, we can be blasé about Marawi. It's a serious, terrible thing. But life has to go on, and we are responsible for 27 million children. We cannot say, let's pause muna, let's rest muna. O kayo 27 million kayo. Wala muna kasi we have to resolve this issue first. No. And we can help towards the solution, the resolution of this issue, move towards peace by acting and behaving normally, of carrying on. We have to show that life goes on, we carry on, whatever the situation is.
On Thursday night, there was another violent incident in Manila, adding another layer of fear sa mga parents, sa publiko. Will this not affect in any way the opening of classes?
Usually, if you will recall, even in other countries, normally the targets of such bombing and suicidal exercises would really be places of entertainment. You remember Bali, Paris, concert, and so on. Well, school is not a concert. And so it's not a nightclub, it's not a gambling house. And we are calling out, and I hope we are appealing to media, and especially to Rappler, to spread the word that schools are zones of peace.
It's good that you pointed out. Can you discuss more about the concept of zones of peace in Mindanao or elsewhere?
Yes. Schools should not be made as battlegrounds between and among contending parties engaged in violence, with or without martial law. Even without martial law, University of the Philippines does not allow policemen to come in and other military persons. And we are very sensitive to this in Mindanao. We keep on, because you cannot avoid what we call small incidents in Mindanao, even before this Marawi crisis. And we always remind the parties involved that they should never enter schools.
But how is this enforced in
Pardon?
schools? How is this enforced in schools? For instance, if you are in Mindanao and you are under martial law and then they are in control of the government, how exactly does this work as far as principals, school officials are concerned?
As far as we know, the security people, armies, they know that they should not fiddle around in schools. They're aware of that, and it's part of their instructions. Don't carry the war into the schoolrooms, and schools don't take sides at all, as far as the children and the teachers are concerned. And we have had earlier debates on this, even before the Marawi crisis, and we always emphasize this. And teachers always insist, if there are military people or other kinds of armed groups who endeavor to enter schools, they're always requested politely to please stay off and keep the schools peaceful.
If there are cases na may ganong sitwasyon na efforts to enter schools, what should the principal or the school officials, the parents, and the students do?
Kasi they already know how to get in touch with higher officials. We are in touch with the police, we are in touch with the military, and so on. So we can immediately inform them if there are violations of this principle about keeping schools as zones of peace. And so we are also pleading with the other side not to drag children into this very violent and difficult conflict.
Have you discussed with other departments in terms of your intervention on the ground with DSWD, DOH, dahil
Yes.
interlinked na yung kanilang
Oh
mga
yes,
situation?
actually the SWD and the RRMS are working very closely. Actually, convergence yan eh. Kaya on last May 25, nag-meet ka agad the SWD, Education, Environment, and of course the Department of the Budget. Apat kaming naiiwan. And also, even before the start before this crisis, nag-meeting na kami, the other agencies, kasama na si DPWH, because they're supposed to speed up the building of our schoolhouses, ibang sa trade, and because prices of school supplies. So we have to work together dahil this is the biggest activity of government. When you have 27 million kids at stake, and a huge budget, and equally huge bureaucracy that everybody has to come in. And besides, education is everybody's business. It's not just one department. So all are pitching in, and we also help each other and share information.
And so is the private sector and other concerned citizens. Gusto nilang tumulong sa mga pangangailangan ng mga bata sa pagbukas ng classes ngayong Monday at para sa mga pangangailangan din nila dahil sa sitwasyon sa Mindanao. How can they help?
Thank you very much for that question. If they want to give assistance through the Department of Education, they can contact our external partnership service, which really has existing links and works very closely with the private sector, churches, civil society organizations, so that magiging rationalized ang pagbigay ng donations. Kasi sometimes one school can be so fortunate and another school can be unnoticed at all. So ganon. But we would also like to warn the public, kasi we might have many characteristics, different cultures, pero pag disaster na, pag tragedy, we all come together. So we would like to warn also the public not to ignore requests, kasi there will be text messages, there will be telephone calls saying Secretary Briones is seeking for your contribution, please send to this bank account.
Yeah.
It happens in other disasters. Or she's going to take the plane and she needs money, etc. to share. So don't give money. Don't give money. Especially we are saying, for us in the Department of Education, we are saying we decided we are not going to accept money. It's too sticky. So, kung mas gusto namin mga materials, gusto namin human resources, help in psychosocial assessments, pero the money side, we would discourage it because mahirap na ang accountability issue. Kasi ginagamit ang pangalan ng DepEd, pangalan ko, pangalan ng superintendent na mangungulekta. Pero these organizations who do collections of money on their own, they can transform their funds which they collect into resources, school bags, school supplies, chairs, food, especially now, food is very necessary, kaysa magbigay ng pera to public institutions. I mean, that's how we look at it.
Finally, pag-usapan natin yung iba namang bahagi ng bansa sa pagbubukas ng pasukan ngayong Lunes. Ano naman yung paghahanda na ginagawa ninyo sa ibang bahagi ng bansa sa pagbubukas? Kumusta yung Oplan Balik Eskwela?
Ano yan, simultaneous kasi what happens in Manila happens everywhere else. So, halimbawa, we had the Brigada Eskwela, communities were mobilized, parents, husbands and wives of teachers, civil society groups, and the children themselves to clean up schoolhouses, the grounds, do minor repairs, buy supplies. So it's really for preparing the schoolhouses. So by the time school opens, kasi during my time, how many decades ago, at least 1 week would be spent by the children in cleaning up the school. Kasi 2 months yan na vacation so places are really in a mess. Pero ngayon, before classes start, the community already gets to work.
To wrap this discussion up, kung may mga reklamo, kung may mga complaints sa araw mismo na pagbubukas ng pasukan, paano nila ito i-report sa DepEd?
Madali lang yon kasi sa school, nandyan lahat na teachers, nandyan ang principal, hanapin ka agad yung principal. Tapos kung hindi pa nare-resolve, nandyan yung district superintendent. And then you can go up kung regional to the regional director, and finally to us here. But we will also be monitoring. All of us in the executive committee are going to be out in the field on Monday. We will be choosing places where we will go to.
Saan kayo pupunta? Saan kayo pupunta ngayong Monday?
I had a place in mind, but I was advised not to go yet, which I would really have wanted to go to.
May operation center
Manila.
daw.
Sa Manila ako.
May operation center kayo dito sa DepEd kung saan pwedeng makatanggap ng mga reports?
Sa aming comms, sa communications group namin, because they will also be going around and roving. And the police will always have a visible presence. Yung iba naman uncomfortable sila, o di magpalayo. Kung gusto naman ng iba, they feel more comfortable, visible. Depende sa lugar. Kasi deterrent yung kung mayroong visibility ang police forces, even without the situation.
Meron ding partnership yung DepEd with Agos powered by Ibayanihan kung saan pwedeng mag-report yung mga papamayan, mga parents, mga iba pang sectors na maaaring maapektuhan. They just log into agos.rappler.com.
Yes.
It's a platform.
That's great. Thank you for that. And then you pass it on to us.
Yeah.
And then we also have the usual Facebook, and we also have our own website, etc., and which are always monitored in terms of problems, and have instructed all our officials to immediately report if there are untoward incidents or problems which crop up, and we don't know, there might be, but we're hoping at the rate that we are preparing ourselves, this probably might be manageable.
Yeah, and information management is crucial. So,
Yes,
kung
yes.
merong mga gustong magbalita, sana hindi fake ang i-report.
Yes.
Tumulong mag-verify.
Yes.
Pwedeng i-text lang sa 2929, libre yun sa Agos. At pwede rin bumisita diretso sa agos.rappler.com. Directly sa platform, it's a map pwede nilang i-post doon.
That's great.
Pwede
Oo.
rin via Twitter, just use hashtag ReliefPH or Oplan Balik
Yes.
Eskwela. Doon imo-monitor natin.
Salamat sa lahat na ginagawa ninyo at ibang mga media outlets dahil kailangan talaga ang accurate information para malaman, lalo na ang mga parents. Parents worry about their children na we will continue as we always have continued.
On that note, thank you for talking to us. We've been speaking to Secretary Leonor Briones. Thank you for joining us. I'm Voltaire Tupas. Maaari mo ikwento ang inyong mga naranasan along the way?
Sir, yung pag-alis namin doon sa tinitira namin bahay, na pag-alis namin doon na nakita namin yung mga jihadist, yung mga ISIS